do one job in the world, out of the world, what job would it be? What would you like to be ultimately if you could be one? And it could be unrealistic, and that's okay. I can't wait to see it.
It looks like I can't chat
you
with
can't.
you.
That's okay. That's okay, Manish. I'm going to ask you then.
Okay.
What ultimately, if you can be one thing, you can be in one job, what will it be for you?
I would love to be a drummer, a professional drummer. Yeah.
Very
I think
nice.
yeah, we got all these artistic people here.
I know we all want to be like some sort of an artist, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Marjorie, you want to be a singer? I know you can sing, can you? Will you be singing for us today?
I've never had proper training, and I'm a bit shy, so we'll see maybe later on.
All right. And Dora would like to be an embassy abroad and as a mission and humanitarian worker. Very nice. You can still be one of those. And I still think that, you know, any of these jobs that we write down here, it's never too late. Bethany wants to be a pop star singing and dancing. Hey, Bethany, if you trust me, we can form a group. We'll do it. We can do a Zoom, you know, band. Why not,
Very
right?
I don't know if anybody wants to hear me sing, but
you can dance though. You can dance, right? And who else? I also want to be a singer and a dancer. And the truth is, and I said this last time, I can't sing and I can't dance. So Bethany, I don't know if you would want to be in your band. I might be like technician or something, or a roadie, but definitely not your artist of choice. And also, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an ambassador. That was one of my dream job. I wanted to be an ambassador. I think it would be such an awesome job to be in and get to, you know, be stationed in different parts of the world. But anyways, without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest speakers here. And as I said to you, we have two international guest speakers. The lady right here is Marjorie Sittidecha, and Marjorie is my sister. Can you believe it? And so I'm able to lure her in today, and it's 9 o'clock over in Bangkok. Marjorie's in Bangkok, Thailand. So she's up helping us out tonight, and we really appreciate it, Marjorie. And I say good morning, but I have to say like good evening to you. Marjorie is a senior brand manager for a company in Thailand called Just Bao Group. And I will ask her in a little bit to elaborate on what she does and what her company does. Okay, and here on my bottom left is my very good friend, Manish Joshi. Manish, I've known Manish for a long time. You know, he and his wife have been friends for forever. Manish is currently owning a business, and the name of the business is called Third Coast Spray Foam. And again, I will ask Manish to elaborate on his career and his career path. So if you don't mind, Manish, I'm going to start with Marjorie. So Marjorie, tell us where you grew up and how do you get to become who you are today, please?
I was same as you. I was born and raised in Bangkok, Thailand. I had an education also in the US. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in majoring in fashion merchandising and marketing. and I have master's in international business. I have been in fashion retail for the past 15 years.
So you've been in fashion for forever, and you
Yep, fashion
basically
and beauty.
do what you went to school for. Okay,
Absolutely.
wonderful. I'm going to ask you the same question, Mr. Joshi or Manish. Where did you grow up? And I forgot to mention something. Manish is actually joining us from far away Spring Lake, Michigan here.
Actually,
So-
I'm in Portage, Michigan today.
Oh, you are in Portage, Michigan. I'm sorry.
Yep.
That was a little bit
No.
further away.
Yeah.
That was my former backyard, I guess. So Manish, tell us where you grew up and how do you come about to be in the US today?
I grew up in Canada, in Western Canada, city called Edmonton. Lived there from when I was about 6 years old to when I finished university, so about 23. And at that time, I moved. That city is on the west side of the country. I moved to the east side to Toronto, and then to another city nearby called London, Ontario. And about 20 years ago, I decided to go traveling, and I had had a business at that time, sold that, and took the money. And what was supposed to be a 2-week trip to Mexico turned into 10 months in Southeast Asia and India. So while I was traveling, I met the woman who is now my wife, and she happens to be a Michigan girl, a West Michigan girl. So we ended up back in Spring Lake. She's a Spring Lake grad, and there we are. She's got all her family there, and it's been great. So yeah, a little bit of a circuitous route, but here we are.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you. And Marjorie, talk to us a little bit about your schooling, please. How did you come about to attend school in the US?
Well, my brother, who's your brother, was
Yes.
studying in
We share the same brother.
studying in San Francisco at that time. That was back in 1993. With my love and passion for fashion, I actually applied to art school for fashion design major because I didn't know what fashion merchandising and marketing was at that time. It was like an unknown major to me. And then after my first semester, I found out that I'm more into the business side, the merchandising and marketing side of fashion industry. I'm not really into fashion design, so that's how I switched my major from fashion design to fashion merchandising and marketing. And I found myself I have all the my questions answered, during my 4 year in college.
And so, did you get your bachelor's and your master's over in San Francisco then? Correct?
Yes. Yep. Correct. I
So you
graduated
went to
from
both-
Academy of Art College in San Francisco, and then I went to Lincoln University for my master's, which I received majoring in international business. Sorry.
Wonderful. Did you feel that the education that you went for has helped you or play a big part in your roles today at work?
Absolutely, absolutely. It has prepped me for what I'm doing today because when I went to school, I wanted to be a buyer. And I've had a chance to do more than just that. I managed the brand. I launched several brands in Thailand for the past 15 years. I launched Smashbox Cosmetic in Thailand. So I did product management, marketing management. I was also responsible for sales and operations. So yep, definitely it has prepared me for my role today.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks, Marjorie. And Manish, tell us what you studied. I know you went to school a lot.
I have, yeah. My undergrad was at the University of Alberta, which is in Edmonton, where I grew up, and I did my undergrad in economics with a minor in philosophy. And then from there, I didn't end up actually working in economics. I've had a couple different businesses when I went to London, Ontario, which is where my parents were living at the time. They're still there. I ended up starting a international food business distributorship there. So I brought different kinds of international foods from Central America, the Middle East, India, Southeast Asia, the Caribbean, all those places, brought them to my parents' grocery store, and we used to sell it there as well as to restaurants, and did that for about 10 years. So the economics degree might have helped in a general sense, but it wasn't specifically related to that. But then when I moved to the US, I worked as a mortgage salesperson, did that for several years, and then at that point I went to law school. So I'm actually a member of the Michigan State Bar. Did that for about 12 years. I'm still a member, still technically practicing, but I don't have any more clients because now here I am running my insulation business. So yeah, the law degree, I did enjoy it for quite a while, but it's definitely a challenging area to work in, and I got kind of burned out, and I'm really enjoying the working for myself again, and having the insulation business has been great. So we've been doing that for about 4 years now, and the law degree definitely helps with running your own business. You understand a lot more about how things operate than the average contractor. So that's been super helpful. But a lot of it's been on the job learning too. So, there's a combination there.
I'm going to keep going with you, Manish. How do you come about doing this installation business?
It was actually a suggestion from a friend of ours. We were sitting around one evening and, mentioned that I was looking for a change of career. And I had done construction during my summers when I was an undergrad. And so at that time, my friend suggested looking into spray foam insulation rather than the other types of insulation, which are blown fiberglass or cellulose. And he said he's a contractor, a general contractor, and he said that in his opinion, the demand will increase because as the legal requirements for energy efficiency become stricter and stricter, and there's really no other technology that can achieve what it does. Spray foam has kind of an advantage there, and there weren't a lot of people in the market, and it's a relatively high barrier to entry, so not just everybody's gonna walk into it. So we looked into it and decided to make the investment, plunged in, and here we are. Still, things are getting better all the time. We're getting busier and busier, and so I think it was a good decision. But it's definitely, like any business person, really challenging at the beginning, learning something that you don't really know. I didn't have any background in it specifically. So
Yeah, I was going to say, because you went from mortgage to law and then to this installation business, it's they're all pretty different.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I salute you for that, because these are big changes.
Yeah, I get bored. I think I'm one of those people that after a while I need to push myself and see what else I can do. So I know there's a lot of people out there who like, okay, I've been doing this for a long time. I think I kind of have the hang of it. Let me try something different. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Manish. Now, Marjorie, I'm going to go back to you. And you did mention earlier that you have always been, having passion for fashion. Listen to that. So, and you stick with it, right? Because I remember you as a child, you have always loved, putting makeup on, getting dressed up and things of that nature. And you still, stick with it. Me, on the other hand, I'm just going to add this a little bit. I didn't realize that I have always wanted to be in education. At the house, at our grandparents' house, I had a blackboard, and I would teach our dogs and cats on the little blackboard. And then little that I knew that I would actually be doing it for a living. But anyways, so sorry about that. Going back to Marjorie, tell us more. What has drawn you into the fashion business?
As mentioned, I've always had, passion for fashion. I've always been interested in, new trends and, seeing new things, learning about the designers. And I was, lucky to be going to school in San Francisco, where it has, where I had the opportunity, where I was exposed to, brands, international brands and also local brands. So yeah, I mean, yep, well, it has given me the opportunity to learn more and more about fashion.
Okay. And could you tell us more about your current job at this company, Just Bow Group? What do you do, and what does the company do?
Okay, Just Bow Group is one of Thailand's leading retailer. We specialize in fashion and lifestyle business and also home furnishings. I've joined the company for over a year, and I've been working on a very, very interesting and exciting project in the beauty, which is very, very new to the company. So we're expanding from fashion into beauty here. But as far as I can share with you, we're launching a new brand. It's our own brand, and I've been here from, I could say that I've been here from day one, working on the brand concept and the product range. And now we're about 60-70% completed. And we're launching the brand in Q4 this year, and I'm very excited.
And I heard that having to deal with people from the other side of the world as well, just like, with us here, because you have to deal with people in North America, right? So you have to work late like this all the time. How do you like that? I mean, I love getting out of work at 4. So I don't know if I like to be Zooming at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night.
I'm flexible. I consider myself a night owl. So, it works for me. It works for me. I find myself, more creative at night when it's quiet and everybody's gone to bed. That's when I think and, I come up with ideas for work, generally. And that's dated back from when I went to school, when I was most productive and most creative would be at night. So works for me.
Very well, that's true. And Marjorie, I didn't get to ask either you or Manish earlier, what was your first job? Do you remember?
Of course.
What was it?
My first job was executive secretary. I had that job for about 7 months before I got into fashion, but I found it to be very, very useful for everything else that I have been doing afterwards, because it has prepped me with organizational skill, people skill. Yep.
Awesome. I didn't even recall that, but that was something new that I learned about my own sister today. So thank you for sharing. And Manish, do you recall your first job?
I do. I was 12 years old, and I was selling ice cream from a little cart, a bicycle cart. I get dropped off at this swimming pool, and I would sit in the parking lot and sell ice creams for the day, just on weekends. And it was a great little job, not bad for a kid. Made some good money, so it was a lot of fun.
Well, that had to be a very fun job and delicious job, I would say, right?
I did sample some of the products once in a while. So yeah, it
Well,
wasn't
I betcha. Since we have a very small audience today, if audience wouldn't mind, I would love for you to share, with us your first job. And I'm going to go with Bethany, if that's all right with you, please.
Sure. My first job, my mom actually owned a hair salon. when I was growing up. So there was the hair salon, and at that point, the tanning salon was really big. So that was part of it as well. So I worked as a receptionist there, scheduling appointments for people, and then also like cleaning the tanning beds and making sure that everybody was where they needed to be.
That was a fun job, I bet. And got to meet a lot of people.
It was. I did get to meet a lot of people. So yeah, it was good.
Thank you, Bethany. And Miss Hudson, if you don't mind sharing, please. You muted. Oh, you got it.
So my first job was at Walmart. Yeah. So I worked as a cashier. Well, no, first I worked at night receiving, so I worked overnight. And then after that, they moved me to a cashier position. And then after that, to a customer service representative. And then I got my own department, which was domestics.
Very nice. Thank you. And Miss Green, if you don't mind sharing, please.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My first job out of college was in insurance. I did insurance claims. But prior to that, I had actually worked throughout high school, and I had a number of jobs working at the cleaners and things like that. So I've always been working. I actually started working I think I was about 14. So I started early.
Very nice. And you developed, those career and employability skills at an early age. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for sharing. I'm going to go back to our speakers again. Manish, what skills did you develop early in your career or careers?
I think the biggest skills that pretty much all the way through that still are useful, I'm still developing, is the people skills. Working with people. I've had a lot of different jobs and done a lot of different things, and met people from all different backgrounds, and so I've been always needed to have skills of understanding where people are coming from, working with them at their level, understanding, allowing them to kind of express their needs and meeting them where they are rather than coming from where I'm at. And I think that's been very helpful, whether it was in being a business owner or in the law, sales, everything. It's always, it's about the customer. And so the person you're working with, they're coming to you to help them. And I think I pretty quickly learned early on that if you can be helpful and listen to people and work with them respectfully, that you can have a really good experience for everybody, for them and for yourself. So I think those are the big skills that, even from selling ice cream and working in different retail settings, those were always I think the most important skills, more than technical skills.
Awesome, Manish. Thank you. And Marjorie, what skills do you think that you have developed early in your career?
Same as Manish, definitely. It's people skill, and every single day I have to interact with people. I have to negotiate. So for me, interaction management and negotiation skills are very, very important for my job on a daily basis.
I agree. Thank you. And both of you, Manish, I'm going to start with you first. Coming from Canada, right, and then living in the US, and now permanently living in the US, share with us the differences between the two cultures as far as work culture goes.
That is a really interesting question. Even though the United States and most of Canada, they speak common language and culturally very similar, there are just some subtle cultural differences that are really important. The United States and Canada, the United States is more, in general, more outgoing and aggressive and bold in a lot of ways, whereas Canada tends to be a little bit more standoffish. So connecting with people, at least on a surface level at the beginning, is much easier in the United States. people tend to be more open and willing to talk and share their ideas much more quickly than in Canada. They tend to be a little bit more reserved. So I definitely noticed that that was a big difference. I think everybody has the similar goals. They want to succeed. I think there's, similar work ethics and the same ideas about relationships between people. But I think that was probably the biggest difference I noticed between the United States and Canada.
And I'm going to throw this, and this just entered my head. Okay, I'm just going to throw you off here a little bit. In the U.S. here, we always hear the term fashionably late, right?
Uh-huh.
Does that apply to Canada?
In a social context, yes, but in a business context, professional context, not so much. And I believe it's the same here in the United States as it is in Canada. I think when you make a, time commitment, I think it's still very much you're expected to show up on time. Whereas, my background is actually from India, and I don't know if it's similar in Thailand, but yeah, time is a much more flexible concept in in my Indian culture compared to Western culture. So that's I think that is much more similar between the U.S. and Canada.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Thank you so much. And Marjorie, if you could please share with us, the culture, the work culture between the U.S. and Thailand.
I think it depends on the nature of the company. If you're working in international company, you're expected to be a little more what's the word? I'm sorry, I just lost the word.
More universal, more Western.
More Western, more universal. You're expected to speak up, whereas in the Thai culture, most people may be shy. You're waiting until you're being asked to speak, then you speak. So that's the main difference. So as far as fashionably late, as Miss same as Mr. Manish, you're expected to show up on time. If you've made a commitment, it's still considered not acceptable if you show up late. Same as in the US, I would say.
But and I'm going to throw this at you, okay? We grew up in Bangkok, right? And it's the metro, and it's huge. There's more than 6 million people living there, and the traffic is horrendous. And Manish, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. How do you even get to places on time? Because when I visit home, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not so used to that much of a traffic anymore.
You have to give yourself at least an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours to commute from point A to point B. And if you don't want to be late, for me, right, sometimes I have a meeting at 8 a.m. In the office, and generally if I leave home at 6 o'clock in the morning, it does not guarantee that I will get to work by 8 o'clock. Sometimes I had to leave at 5:30 in the morning so that I get to the office, around 6-ish. And then, I spend time, doing my makeup or, prepare for the meeting there. But I can't leave home at 7:30 or 7 in the morning and expect to be at work at 8 o'clock. Definitely not.
And then having said that, you're not that, how many miles, how many kilometers are you, from your office to your home? It's not that far.
I think it's about between 25 and 30 kilometers. So it's around 12, 15 miles.
It took you 2 hours to get from point A to point B, like she said.
Sometimes.
So I have to say that, we've been blessed that we don't have to deal with that much of a traffic in the morning. So I salute you for doing that day in, day out, every single day. I mean, it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
I can say that. Well, tell us what skills have you found critical or vital to the job that you have currently?
Same answer. I would have to say that it's people skill. And negotiation skill, because that's part of my job. I have to negotiate on a daily basis. From small small things to, bigger things like, negotiating, orders and, price, and to negotiating, getting the job done on time or everything.
Very good. Thank you. Manish, what skills do you find most critical or vital to your career, to your job currently?
Well, as the owner, I do a lot of the different things that the business requires, administrative, sales. I actually perform a lot of the work myself too. But honestly, I think the ultimate skills is really sales, and which is really the people, engaging with people. That seems to be the most essential part of the job. I've at the point where I'm hiring people to do the work for me now, and I have people who do the bookkeeping and things like that. But really, it's the sales part that's really central to the success of the business. And I think those skills of engaging with people and understanding what their needs are, and then translating it into what we can do, and being honest with people, saying yes, we can do that, or no, that's outside of the scope of our work. I think people sense that feel comfortable that we're being honest and straightforward with them, and I think it gives them a lot more comfort working with us, because it can be a difficult process, because the business we're in, you're only going to hire us maybe once in your life or twice in your life. If you're working in your home, installation isn't something you do very often. Whereas you might hire a painter every few years, or a landscaper or something like that. But as far as the installation, it's only once in a while. So it's a big decision. And so it's been, I think the sales and engagement, people skills like we talked about earlier, I think that's been really critical for our success.
Very nice. When you did mention that you have to hire people, what do you have in mind when you hiring those people? If you could let us educators know, so we can tell the kids, what do you see in those workers? What qualifications are you looking for?
When I'm hiring, I think the biggest, it would be nice if somebody came in with certain technical skills, but mostly I think we're looking, for me, we do engage with our customers pretty regularly. So you want to have someone who is comfortable talking with other people and with new people all the time. Somebody who is mentally flexible and is able to adapt to different situations. That's always really important, because no two jobs are ever the same. And I think that's the case in a lot of industries, a lot of activities. Even though you may be technically doing the same thing, every situation is slightly different, and having that openness to re-examine what's going on, and then flexibility in terms of the job. Okay, we did it this way in the first time, but today we're going to do it a different way, and these are the reasons. So I think that those are probably the skills, rather than the technical skills. The technical skills can be learned, but those people skills, I think, have really been
True.
Been really important. So those are the things that I look for. And one of the funny things, because I'm actually performing the work with my employees, I want to have somebody that I actually get along with. I don't want to have a jerk, so somebody who can hold a conversation, and then, the basic things like showing up on time, and being respectful and self-motivated, self-directed. Those are really important, and I've been lucky. I've had some really good people work with me. So but you hear the horror stories of a lot of employers who find that the people they hire don't make the extra effort to follow through on tasks, or don't get engaged enough to fully complete job. They just do work on a superficial level. So that's been really, I know that there's issues with that. So I've been lucky that way. I've found people who've been willing to put in a good effort and learn, and so far that's been critical, I think.
Awesome. That's such a useful information. Thank you, Manish. And Marjorie, You do hiring, I believe, many times in different jobs that you've been in. What qualifications do you usually look for in those candidates?
It's definitely someone who has passion for what they do. You know, they come into work and they treat the business as if it was their own, and not just because, you know, the job pays the bill. Someone who is self-motivated and flexible, and, you know, as we spoke early on, you know, sometimes we have to work after hours. Oftentimes, you know, very late at night. Like last Friday, I had a meeting with our partner in Canada at 12:30 a.m. It was supposed to be a quick call, and then, you know, I'm actually very lucky that one of my subordinate, you know, she's flexible, and she was you know, very determined. So she offered to, you know, join the meeting at 12:30, which was way after her, you know, she would normally go to bed around 11 o'clock, but she stayed up late and, you know, joined the meeting with me. So that is something I really do appreciate. You know, that doesn't happen a lot, but oftentimes it does happen. Someone who also be respectful and, you know, willing to be a good team member. And yep.
Here we hear very similar qualifications from both of our speakers today. And then I find the same way that soft skills are extremely important. Flexibility, you know, be willing to help and lend the hands. I mean, to me, those are extremely critical. So if you can tell, you know, the students today or young people today about their future, about, you know, entering the careers, what would be some wisdom that you can share with them from your personal experience? Manish, go ahead.
I think the one thing, and you know, Marjorie's story is very interesting because she found her interest very early in life and has followed through with it, and that's fantastic. And I'm probably the exact opposite of that, in that I did many different things. And so you can go through life, I think, doing either way. You can explore and throw yourself into different areas and find a good life that way. Or you can, if you found your passion the way Marjorie has, I think, you know, to really pursue it to the depths that she has, I think is fantastic. So I think that being open to the opportunities and being true to who you are, but also understanding that in the real world, there's always an exchange. You know, you have to bring something to the table in order to get something from the other person, from the other side. So whether it's a job or your own business or education, you need to bring something. And I think that preparedness to put yourself into it, to go all in, will always serve you well. I think enthusiasm and energy will be noticed and benefit. And I think the other thing is that I would want young people to know they don't have all the answers, and neither does anybody else. And so they need to, it's good to learn as much as you can, but also to trust yourself, trust your gut. I think that's really important. So it's a complicated and can be difficult, but also wonderful world. I think that they can make a great future for themselves with a lot of effort and being flexible and being open to the opportunities that are out there.
Thank you, Manish. That was such a, you know, so many wise words. I really appreciate hearing that. And Marjorie, your turn, please.
Yes, Manish, that's fantastic. And, you know, basically you have covered everything, but, you know, in my case, if you're able to find the job that you love, you won't have to work a single day in your life. I know it's cliche, but it's in my case, you know, I wake up every single morning feeling motivated. You know, I love my job. So for me, I'm willing to go the extra miles, you know, to get things done, or, you know, to become very successful. So yes, for me, passion, enthusiasm, have the integrity, and even if you're not, you're not getting where you want it to be early on, I think every single experience is a learning experience. You always learn something from, anything. So, yep, try and learn as much as you can, and it'll be helpful for you, in the future. That's for sure.
Thanks, Marjorie. And I have this pretty boring question, but I have to ask anyways, because we're all globally in the pandemic and we're in this together, right? I used to kind of want to feel sorry for myself, and I'm like, no, yeah, you can't feel sorry for yourself. There are people, everywhere in the world that do struggle with the same problem. So, anyhow, Manish, has the pandemic affected your job, your daily operation? And if it does, which I'm pretty sure it does, how does it affect you and your business?
Well, strangely enough, it hasn't has had as much of an effect on it as you might expect, because when we work, the products that we use require a pretty extensive safety equipment, and usually there aren't any other workers around or homeowners. Normally, when we operate, we are by ourselves. So it's been we're always wearing safety equipment, masks, full face masks, and respirators and things like that. So that's a normal part of our life. The thing that's changed, I guess, for us in the pandemic is just other people becoming aware of it, of how important their health and safety is, something that we've all taken for granted. It's been kind of pointed out, and I think a lot of people become aware of it. And I think it's reinforced it for me, like, oh, that you need to be extra careful, and so that's been really good, as a reminder that we're in whether in people's businesses or homes or farms or wherever, that we need to be extra aware. But the nice thing is that we don't typically work around other people, so we get to kind of do things our own way at our own pace. And so it's been, the safety precautions we take have been really good. But it'll be nice to see the end of that, see the end of the pandemic for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And Marjorie, have you been much affected by the pandemic at all?
Yes, it definitely has an impact to not just me, but everybody else in the company. So now we've been working from home, because we've had a third wave of COVID-19 here in Thailand. So I've been working from home for the past 3 weeks. The good side is that I get to work longer hours. Because I don't have to drive to work or drive from work back home. So that saves me about 2 hours. So I get additional 2 hours to work, and it doesn't get interrupted. So that's good. I wake up and then I go straight to my desk. So that's the good part. There's definitely a delay for sure. That would be my challenge, because I work with the company in Canada, and they work with the manufacturer in Italy or in Germany or in Korea, and those factories definitely are affected by the pandemic because they have to reduce the capacity. So the impact that has on us right now is that we're not able to launch the project according to the desired timeline because of that. And also I cannot come into the office and work with my team. So we kind of have to make it work. And that kind of delay the work process a little bit as well. But, we're trying to make it work.
Awesome. And do you notice that has there been any decline in sale as far as fashion goes? Because with pandemic, right, fashion may have been like the last item on the list of most people who have been affected financially. People have lost their jobs and whatnot. So if you can maybe tell us more on that, please.
Because we're definitely affected, but because of our product price point, we're not affected so much. Our customers are are in general still have the spending power, although it's less, and they can't go to the shopping mall because they're concerned about getting the disease, but we try and make up with the online sales, and that has been yeah, helpful in making up for the loss at the brick and mortar store.
Thank you, Marjorie. Well, we still have a little bit of time. Audience, if you have any questions, burning questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask our lovely speakers here. Don't be shy. Please go right ahead.
Well, I have a question for each of you. You've talked a lot about where you've been. Are there plans for where you're going? Is there something coming up in the future that you're excited about? Do you see yourself continuing with?
For me, I'd love to go. I haven't actually even been back to Canada in a year and a half. I haven't been to see my parents in a year and a half because of the COVID. I just got my second vaccine shot, so I'm really happy about that. And I think in a few weeks I'll be able to go back and see them. My father's in his 80s, my mother's in her late 70s, so it'll be really nice to see them. Beyond that, I think I don't have any plans for any bigger trips, but hopefully we'll get a few little trips. We've got a couple young boys, one teenager and one 10-year-old. So that's the extent of our plans at this point. We did manage to actually do a little traveling this year. We went for spring break to San Diego, California. So that was wonderful. And I think we're going to keep it relatively close to home for the time being. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
So for me, I still see myself doing what I do. Maybe 10 years from now, I might start my own business, but we'll see. But that's part of my passion too. But I still do enjoy being a professional and work for other people for the company. So I definitely still see myself doing what I do in the next 5-10 years.
Marjorie, would you mind sharing a bit of the brands that you have worked with in the past? Please, because I think that might be interesting for the audience to hear.
I've had a chance to work as a marketing manager for Mango, which is a Spanish brand, Spanish fashion brand in Thailand that was dated back in early 2000. And then I've worked with Smashbox Cosmetics and most recently Levi's.
Very nice. Thanks, Marjorie. Ms. Green or Ms. Hudson, any burning questions for our speakers? The floor is yours.
I guess my question is in terms of like the monetary, component of it. I mean, how do you guys feel as you've gone throughout your career? Have you felt things have gone up salary-wise, or has it gone in reverse? Or is it just kind of like in the middle for you?
For me, I made good money as a lawyer, and so that was really nice. But the lifestyle was kind of tough. When we started the spray foam insulation company, definitely took a pay cut there. But I think in the long term, you can make a good living if you're successful. If you can do a good job at your being a business owner, a small business owner. I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I think if people, I don't think there's anything wrong with working for somebody else. I think that we need people to work for us, and I think there's a lot of great companies and people can get very fulfilled doing that. I personally enjoy my life a lot more being a business owner, and financially I think it's taking me in the direction that I want it to go. It's going to, I think eventually it'll be exceeding what I had as a lawyer. Right now I'm not there yet, but I see a lot of opportunity there. And the other side of being a business owner is that you're building an asset. If you're doing it the right way, if you're treating it as a business and not a job, is you're building an asset that can be sold to another business owner down the road. So you're earning income two ways, both as an employee of the business, but also as the owner of the business. And so I think looking at it both short term and long term, I think it's the right thing for me. Definitely not for everybody, but I think for me it's been great.
For me, of course, as you've gained more experience and as you grow, older, it's part of the expectation that you get a raise as you progress. However, I have taken a pay cut before to do something I wanted to do more. So I mean, for me, it's more of a balance. If you're happy, if you're fulfilled, sometimes that's more important than money. But I'm not saying that money is not important, but I just have to be happy with what I do, and try and make it work. But yeah, definitely as you progress, you expect to see the raise in the pay.
Any other questions for our speakers? Okay, well,
I had a
you know,
question.
oh, go
Sorry.
ahead.
I had a question for Manish, if I could. If you could just kind of explain like what insulation is. Like if I had a student that was interested in that business and they said, well, what is it or what exactly does it do, for a home or in a home? How could you
Sure.
explain that?
Okay. Well, you understand the basic concept of insulation, which is to create a barrier between one area and another to resist the flow of energy, flow of heat between two spaces. So there's different ways to accomplish that. There's probably the ones that you're most familiar with, which is probably fiberglass, the fiberglass bats, where they're rectangles that are stuffed into walls and used to slow down the movement of air and heat through there. What I do is a different process. It's called spray foam insulation, and what we do is we create polyurethane plastic, and we spray that into a cavity, into an opening, to create that barrier. So it involves taking chemicals that are in drums, heating them, pressurizing them, and then spraying them so that the foam actually doesn't exist until we make it. We're manufacturing foam. And it's probably the best generally available insulation system that's out there for homes and businesses. The whole idea is it creates an air barrier as well as a heat barrier between two surfaces. So you might have seen in your home that if the drywall is down, the wall is broken up and has 16-inch cavities with 2x4 studs or 2x6 studs in there. And we would go in and spray into those gaps between the studs, and then it would get covered again with drywall, and that's going to create the insulation. It's going to keep your home warm or cool, and it works really, really well. The whole idea is to basically make your living space or your occupied space more comfortable, easier to manage, more energy efficient. You're using less energy to maintain comfortable temperature, whether it's heat or cool. So it involves chemistry as well as building science, but it does a great job in terms of making a home or a building comfortable. That's the end of it, and it also makes it healthier because it manages the humidity levels. It's going to keep your humidity in a healthy range instead of letting all the air leak out or having humidity build up in there. So it does a lot of things all at once. It's a little bit different. It's a little harder to explain compared to, say, somebody knows what a carpenter does or an electrician or a plumber. It's a little bit different system, but it's not the sexiest thing, but I think it definitely makes everybody's house a little bit better. So when you notice the difference between a house that has insulation and one that doesn't. So it makes a big, we think we're making the world a little bit better place.
Awesome. Any other questions?
So I have a question. So what type of training, Manish, did you actually have? Maybe you said this, but like, did you have to have any special construction trades type training or anything like that?
That so in the United States, you're not required to. There is no mandatory licensing or training for insulation. In Canada, it is. It is required that you have to. There's a very extensive regulatory scheme around spray foam insulation. In the U.S., they haven't gotten to that stage yet. So my training, I had some background because I'd worked in construction when I was an undergraduate. So I had done some basic types of construction work, and then my father was an estimator for a construction company, so I had a general understanding of the basics of how buildings are put together. But a lot of my learning, I did a very short 3-day training with the company that sold me my spray foam insulation rig, which is a trailer that has all the different equipment that's necessary to do the job. At that time, they gave me a basic training, and then I've done trainings with my insulation supplier, and then done a lot of reading, spoken to other contractors, learned a lot there. Probably my biggest resource has been a Facebook group that's been started about 4 or 5 years ago for spray foamers. There's about 10,000 of us that are members of this around the world. Most of them are US and Canada. And it's a wonderful forum where people can ask questions, and other people are willing to share their information, their experience, their insight. There's a lot of humor as well as a lot of serious discussions. And the really nice thing has been that the goal is to create a very positive environment and hold the industry to a high standard, so that because there's an understanding what we do, if it's done incorrectly, can be harmful, but if it's done well, can be extremely beneficial. So a lot of people take the industry very seriously, and they want good things. And when new people come in, they want them to be educated and informed and to perform to a high standard. So a lot of different sources of information, education. But I didn't have any formal schooling or anything like that in this. A lot of it's been on the job, combined with the resources I can lean on from my suppliers, from my distributors, manufacturers, things like that. So that's where I learned. But I'd love to say that there is a training program for people who are interested in doing it. It's something we've talked about as an industry, but we haven't got to that stage yet.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And I would like to be mindful of our speaker's time. It is now 11 o'clock, and Marjorie's probably getting ready to go to bed, and Manish is going to have to go do his spray foaming. And then I have to go order breakfast for our meeting tomorrow. So each and every one of you probably would have to connect with your students one way or another. Thank you so much for joining us. And everybody, please stay safe. And we appreciate seeing your wonderful faces. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.